We're whirling. Lovely. Thank you very much indeed for coming to this full council meeting of Andover Town Council. Before we start, I've just come back from Councillor King's funeral today, so we've been doing this far too often, but a former member of the council, Mike Jack, died last week. 17th, but he was the second mayor in Andover Town Council's history, so we thought it was appropriate to have a quiet moment of silence, if that's all right. Thank you very much indeed. We've done that too many times recently. So on to the agenda, 2285, apologies for absence. We've got the same apologies from the previous meeting. I think we're all okay to accept those. Yes. Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Declarations of interest. Any declarations of any interest in any way, shape or form? There's a lot on the agenda tonight, so I suppose some people are known to me. I've talked to some people on the phone. Tracy, Max, I don't know. I live at St Peter's Road. I say that all the time just in case it comes up. Anything that does come up, let us know during the meeting. 2287 to approve and sign the minutes of the extraordinary full council meeting on the 18th of October. I have them in front of me. Any points to raise or questions from anything? I'm going to have a proposer and a seconder. That's not Rupert, thank you, proposer. Seconder, Jamie, thank you very much. We're going to vote on that. Yeah, that's fine. That's all good. Very much indeed. 2288 to consider and approve co-option of councillors to Andover Town Council. We have two who put themselves forward tonight, which we're very grateful to. We have copies of their rather fulsome CVs, which is slightly depressing. I'm glad I'm not up for an interview against you. I think I'm right to say the normal procedure is if anyone has any questions.
No.
If anyone wants to ask any questions. John and Maxwell, Rupert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't get to see the CV of John Wade. Could John Wade tell us a little bit about himself, please?
Yes, I'm John Wade. And what do you want me to do, sir?
Just a short review of your CV.
Sorry.
So I've been involved in civic matters for a long period of time and community affairs for a long period of time. Started with the Scouts all the way through Junior Chamber and Rotary and Round Table. I've always been involved in the community. I was a parish councillor in the west of Northampton and near Toaster. And I think that those who can should give something back to the local community. So I can give you more detail if you wish, but that's a very broad summary of where I come from and why I think I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. I also have a question, Mr. Mayor, of Max Schurer, Professor Schurer. You're clearly a very busy man with lots of interests and activities. So realistically, what proportion of time and energy would you be able to commit, given to a large extent you'd be able to opt for particular activities?
Well, there's a saying, if you ever want anything done, go and find somebody who's busy. So yes, I always have pressures on my time. I have ever since I can remember in my working life. But what I can say is that I don't give commitment to something unless I believe I can do it. I only work 85% at the moment, even though I'm technically retired. And I also know that that won't go on forever. I will reduce my hours during the course of 2023 to 60%. Then who knows, there may be other things that come along and grab some of that time as well. It's an appropriate question to ask, but if I didn't feel that I had the time, I wouldn't be offering my services.
Thank you, you've convinced me.
Luke, James, no questions?
No.
No, I've never done this before. Do I have to?
Yeah, if you propose, I mean, we can both do them both together, we can do it separately.
I'm happy to propose that we put both councillors. David, so we had a second there. Are we all okay to vote on that?
Yeah.
Job done. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
We should have left the group.
No, I think it's okay.
It's okay though.
Because we're being videoed, so you can watch it.
Right, so if you'd like to join the table, you can join the meeting, but you won't be able to vote this
No.
particular meeting.
I've got the-
And I watched you sat down, I think.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Sorry, you might be-
Well, that's all right, then. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. We'll start firing jobs your way in a few minutes.
Congratulations.
Let's see that. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for understanding and thank you for coming tonight. And yeah, apologies if I take too long to bring things. 2289, public participation. We have representatives from Youth Unite sitting in the corner over there. We have added here a quick resume of conversation that Tracy and I had something like that. And this is obviously about using the space in the clubhouse. So, Tracy, over to you. Thank you for coming tonight.
Okay, yeah, thank you for having us. We really appreciate your time. I'm here to obviously represent the youth community of Arundel. It's been many years since Arundel has had a youth club, and with the preschool leaving, we thought it was a prime opportunity to revert back to a youth club, which I believe was the building that was used for the previous youth club over 20 years ago. And I know obviously we've been mentioned in previous meetings, and it was proposed at one of the last meetings that maybe we could go ahead on a 3-month trial basis. But I'm just here to kind of give the reasons why that's not going to be feasible for us moving forward, because obviously it's our passion to be able to take over the building on a permanent basis. But at the moment, we're in a catch-22 situation, because in order to access the funding that we will need to proceed, we need to obviously have an address, we need to have a commitment of a building. And to proceed on a 3-month basis, we're not going to be able to access that funding. And it's also, we feel like giving a kid a candy and then taking it away, because if we were to get the youth club up and running, and then after 3 months we were told, oh, well, actually, somebody else wants the building and it's not going to be feasible, then obviously that's going to leave us in quite a predicament. We're 100% confident that, you know, once we're up and running and we're established, that we'll be able to access lots of different funding. You know, there's absolutely nothing here for the youth at the moment. They're all hanging around the parks or not going out at all, sitting in their bedrooms, gaming, etc. We've got a fantastic team who we've put together. We've got Ian, who used to be an ex-youth worker. He used to do a mobile pop-up. some years ago now, but it was successful, and he worked very alongside Joe from Prince William School. So Prince William School are very much in support of what we're doing, and obviously we'll advertise the services and supporters within Prince William, which obviously, as you know, most of the youth band will go to Prince William School. Myself, Carrie, and another lady, Catherine, who can't be here tonight, we will all be standing as directors, and we will affiliate with Northamptonshire Association of Youth Clubs. So following meetings with those people, we can actually get up and running very, very quickly in terms of all of the documentation that's needed to make sure that, you know, all regulations are put in place for the youth club. And also, I think it's worth mentioning as well that all of the local supermarkets have agreed to give us free food so that we can feed on the night free of charge. So it'd just be kind of pizzas and hot dogs and that kind of thing. And, you know, the plan is to just do a voluntary monetary, you know, if they can't afford to come in, then that doesn't matter to us, you know. But we're confident that, you know, long term, if it's agreed that we can go ahead with the old preschool room, that, you know, we can actually afford to you know, go for a full-time lease on the building. And what else? The only thing that we would require as well is to actually furnish it ourselves, because we kind of feel that we want to make it a really nice, comfortable space. I'm quite resourceful in getting free stuff through Marketplace on Facebook. And I know we had a conversation about it, Ian, as to obviously the first few months until you bear with us. You know, we obviously need to furnish it. We need to make it comfortable, a place that they're going to respect and enjoy. We've got £3,000 funding coming from a local company. We plan to use that funding initially to buy the equipment we need, things like pool tables, and obviously pay for our first 3 months' rent before we get the full funding. And so I know there was some concern about during those 3 months before we could commit to the full lease. We're quite happy to share the building, but if anything got damaged, then we could write in a contract to say that we don't hold anybody responsible. So say, for instance, within the first 3 months, you know, you did like a mother and baby group or something, and something got spilt on the sofa, we wouldn't be precious about it. We wouldn't be thinking, oh, well, that's our equipment and it needs to be replaced. We wouldn't hold anybody responsible, because most of the equipment that we put in would either be sourced cheaply or free of charge. And yeah, I know we haven't got a lot of time, but I just wondered whether anyone's got any questions and whether.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the way these things work, we won't discuss it till it's later on
Yeah.
the agenda, but now's the time for us to do fact finding. We've got my sort of overview of our conversation, which sort of touches on that. Just to quickly run through it, if we say yes to sort of, you know, some short-term stuff now, you can approach NYC, get DBS, etc. done.
Yeah.
We can start with a soft launch 2 nights a week, probably December sometime.
Yeah.
Ad hoc arrangement, rates per hour as per the hub sort of space. And then January, see how it's going, maybe move to the 3rd and 4th night. During that time, we'll be looking to set up this as a charity.
Yeah.
And then if things are going, everything okay, it's the charity that might take on the lease. And then during that short first period of time, it wouldn't be exclusive, but we talked about maybe having, as you said, a memorandum of understanding, so that we'd be okay with you putting some furniture in the building if it's damaged for another use.
Yeah, I just need to clear that with our insurance
Yeah,
company,
no,
because our other, all other hirers of our rooms are not allowed to leave any of their furniture.
That's
So
absolutely fine.
I just need to see how that works out.
So, any questions for?
Just what kind of funding can you get, do you know?
Well, one of our other directors, Catherine, she very much works in that field and works for the council. But there's lots of different funders, like Parish Council, there's, Carrie, you manage to source, because Carrie, Future Health Trust, you've got National Lottery. You know, there's lots of different funding opportunities out there. Because long term, we would love to get a minibus and be able to bring the village children in and out as well. and, you know, get to the point where we can, you know, take them on days out or take them bowling in the evening and things like that. So initially it's going to be a soft launch, but the plan is for it to kind of go every weeknight and split it down into different age groups, so years 7 to 9 and then years 9 to 11, because I think it'd be quite intimidating for a new year 7 doing the youth club with a year 11. And then we could even look at the possibility of doing that one night maybe for years 5 and 6 at the primary school age, maybe a little bit earlier, we could do something for them as well. I mean, my background is very much about management, so I would be looking to make sure that we had good entertainment in place for them. You know, put on different nights, different entertainment for the interest. I think it will very, very quickly snowball. We're going to have an app initially so that we don't oversubscribe. And then obviously then that will fall into a waiting list. The app will actually inform the parents of when Johnny's arrived, if Johnny leaves the building, and we'll be able to put links on the website into all of the different things like Mind and, you know, young offenders, all kinds of different things. You know, the app will allow us to support the parents as well as the youth. So maybe, you know, there might be a couple of daytimes where we might do, you know, mums of youth, tea and coffee afternoon, and Catherine might be able to get somebody in to do a talk around maybe, you know, youth mental health, or if anybody's got any concerns, we can, you know, we can address them, you know, and be more than.
We've got only got a couple more minutes. Is there any more? Dave, you have a question?
Chair,
A second question.
you were mentioning people from various year groups at school. Have you got a kind of upper age limit in mind?
Yes, it'll just be high school years, so it'll be year 11 finish. Because I think once you've left school, then, you know, it's different, isn't it? But no, it'll just be year 7 to 11, but split into the two categories.
And in terms of sort of the numbers who are expressing some kind of an interest, can you give some idea at this stage?
Well, I think, Joe, you can maybe pick up on that because
Yeah, there's loads. We would have to limit it, unfortunately. There'll be an awful lot of interest.
Just one very brief question. Is there anything stopping us from giving a grant to them, even though they're paying us, certainly to use the facilities?
Just not having any money in the grant, but.
Right, okay. Other than that,
yeah.
minor.
Yeah. That's your one to make a donation.
Okay, I just want to say we're really, really passionate about it, and we do hope that, you know, you can see that passion and trust us moving forward, that, you know, it's all for the good of the community and, you know, it's been needed for a long time. Thank you, everybody.
No, thank you for your place. Thank you to everyone else for coming along. Thank you. 2219, consideration of request from Mr. Party.
Thank you.
Brilliant, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. 2191, receive a report from the NNC Ward Councillor. Helen, thank you. Second time in the week, 3 days.
You get no help, no, bring you. You just haven't seen me.
I was tracking you well.
No, you're quite right, and it was a fantastic event on Sunday. The youngsters really do us proud, don't they? So that was great to be there. So when I've come to previous of these meetings, the last time you asked me to sort of give you a bit more of an overview of things that we were doing in Northamptonshire. So I've come ready to do that. And then I've got a brief question to ask you at the end. So just give you a little taste of things that are going on. So a plug for Thursday. We've got our climate change conference, which is an online conference all day on Thursday. You can go in and take in a few sessions and go back out again. But that's now an annual event. We had our first one last year. So if anybody's interested, please do get in touch. Please do log in and get involved. It's a really important part of what we want to do in Northamptonshire. North Northamptonshire is raise awareness, but also talk practical about how we can make a positive difference to our climate. It won't surprise you to know that 6 months in to the financial year, we're now budget setting and challenging ourselves. It's always a pretty grim process because we're always looking for savings. It never really changes, and we're a bit nervous about Thursday from the point of view what the Chancellor might or might not say, because there's quite a lot of uncertainty now, particularly in my area, which is one of the things I'm responsible for is adult social care. It looks possibly like social care reform is going to be kicked into the long grass, we don't know. And it looks like possibly, again, I don't know, but we might have to raise the money for adult social care through raising the council tax. I think the limit on how far we can raise council tax might be removed. So politically for us, a difficult thing to do, but something we're going to have to, I imagine, consider. On a more positive front, I'm sure all of you were aware that we agreed a couple of executive meetings ago that Flettonfield was surplus to NMC's requirements, and it is now up for Oundle Town Council and Flettonfield Association to get their hands on it and turn it into the community space that you want. So I'm really pleased about that. You're probably also aware of, there's been quite a lot of controversy over garden waste and charging or not charging for it. In this part of North Northamptonshire, you've been paying to have the garden waste collected for many years. The rest of North Northamptonshire was not. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that the cost was £55 a year here, is that right? 50. And obviously no extra charge elsewhere. We have made a decision on that, and we will be charging across the whole of North Northamptonshire. But that charge is going to reduce here down to £40. And because there's been that inequality between the areas for the year and a half since North Northamptonshire Council came into being, the first year of the new tariffs, the old East Northamptonshire area, people who already subscribed will actually get that for £20 for the first year to make up the fact you've been paying when the others haven't. So we will still be subsidising the service, but the truth is we'll be subsidising it less than we did because we can't afford to do anything else, quite frankly. Just for interest, at the executive meeting that we had at the end of last week, we agreed to invest in LED lighting across the old, I'm afraid it's just the old Northamptonshire County Council highways lights. That's going to be an investment of £6.1 million, and we believe that the cost savings benefit will be returned within 6 to 10 years, depending on energy costs, basically. So that's not 100% agreed yet, but has to go to full council because £6.1 million borrowing, as you can imagine, is more than we can just do as an executive, so we have to get permission from full council. Integrated care. I think it's at a point where it's going to become very interesting now, not just for me as the lead member for adult health and wellbeing, but for you as councils. So the integrated care system for Northamptonshire has been up and running since June, and various parts of that have been mobilised. So the Integrated Care Board was mobilised, the Integrated Care Partnership, which is a partnership between health, social care, voluntary sector, communities, has been mobilised. And more importantly, our place-based arrangements, our community arrangements, because the point of integrated care is to have a bottom-up approach rather than a top-down approach. So, excuse me, we launched our community wellbeing forums last week, so there was one for each of the old district and borough areas, and the East Northamptonshire one was a week ago on Monday. Very well attended, but I did comment back that there wasn't enough representation from the rural north, so this area. So I've challenged our officers to make sure more stakeholders from this area are invited, because this is the part of the integrated care system that is very much going to steer, bring the right people together to identify what the problems are at the locality level and what we need to do as a group to unblock the problems and sort those out. But beneath that, we have 2 local area partnerships for each of the community wellbeing forums. So in East Northamptonshire, we will have East Northamptonshire rural and East Northamptonshire urban, so rural obviously is going to take in Oundle and the surround villages around here. And this is where it's important for you as a council, because as council you'll be invited to join the local area partnership. And the local area partnership is the doing part of this. So we identify the problems, bring the right people together to solve them within those local area partnerships. So basically, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up of that, about that. And I'm hoping to host an information session on that for our councillors, but also the district, the town and parish councils to come and learn about the integrated care system and what all these different parts of the system mean and how we all fit into that. So look out for that. We'll be sending out some information. We imagine that the event will be in January, but invitations and information will be going out in December. Other things that I think might be of interest to you, I was just listening to the lady a moment ago talking about the youth club. You remember the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, where we asked for people to put forward their ideas or projects that might go into that. And we had to have projects that were ready to go. Part of the UK Shared Prosperity Fund that we've put forward is actually to develop the projects of the future, so that the next time the funding comes around, we're ready to go. So all the projects that you fed in, I know we didn't take them up, but all those projects are still there, recorded. We need to look at those and start to develop those projects ready for the next rounds of funding, because they probably will keep going, because they're all part of the Levelling Up agenda. But the interesting thing now is they've introduced a new part of the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which is a rural England prosperity fund, very much aimed at places like Oundle and the villages around here. So once I know more, I'll obviously get in touch with Emma, because I'm sure again they'll be asking for people to come forward with projects that would fit with that particular fund. And I'm immediately thinking of, sorry, I'm pointing over there, they're not there anymore, but it could be that the youth club would be something that they could apply for some of that funding. So that was just a little whistle-stop tour of a few things that have been going on since I last came and spoke to you. There's lots of other stuff been going on, as I'm sure you can imagine. But the question I wanted to pose to you is this. A year and a half ago, when I was first elected as one of your 3 councillors for this area, we received a letter from Oundle Town Council, basically complaining that there wasn't enough of a relationship between Oundle Town Council and, at that point, it was kind of East Northamptonshire, but now North Northamptonshire Council. So really, I just wanted to know your thoughts. Has that improved? Are we doing any better? What are the continuing challenges that you have for me?
Any thoughts there? I think if I may throw my tuppence worth, it's not perfect, but I think what has improved, and then we all know there's more than anyone, the communications between us and individuals have been much better. Yeah. And I think you and Charlie and Jason have also been really good at making sure those connections happen and chasing people up on occasion. And I think that's one of the areas we probably felt was a little bit weak previously. So I think that there's certainly been an improvement there. Anyone else got any feedback on that?
Only just to thank the councillor for coming to our meetings and telling us these things. That's where it all starts.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I'm pleased to be here.
Anyone?
I think just, I've not been on just over a year, but I think whenever I've spoken to you, you've been very engaging. You always come to things I think we've invited you to, same with Charlie. So from my point of view, I think very visible, very communicative. Yeah, really good.
And I know I've seen you in action talking to people about planning applications as well. And you've been very forthcoming and very forward and dealt with questions very well. And again, it's never going to be perfect, but that's all people can ask for, I think. Thanks.
Yeah, can I ask a slightly different question? How can it be improved from your perspective? Because I've not seen it in action previously, so I have no track record here.
To be honest with you, I find Oundle Town Council quite easy to work with, because you come forward with what you want. You're quite clear, and you're quite straightforward about what you want us to do for you. So that's a lot easier. Other town councils or parish councils, perhaps, what might happen is they'll have a grumble because we haven't done something. So, well, you haven't actually asked us. It's all very well complaining that pothole's not been mended, but unless you alert us to it, we're not going to be able to take it up on your behalf, because we don't go patrolling everywhere, noting down all the potholes. I mean, highways do, they have a programme of it, but in terms of the engagement with us to them. So I actually find all of you guys very easy to deal with, very straightforward. And I think because we've begun to recognise what each other does, it's when to contact me, and I think I know when to do the same back to you. And it's like when I think about different pots of money, they're not, when a pot of money comes into North Northants Council, it's not only for North Northants Council, it's for the whole community. And so I can think, I know when to say, Ian, do you know about this? Or Emma, do you know about this? And then get it. So no, I think it's working quite well. I mean, as you say, there will always be frustrations, and some of those frustrations come from the fact that I can't always do what you want me to do. But we did get track and fields to the
Yeah, no, that's a really good example. It's a really good example because UK, you spoke to people, you saw what's what.
Yeah, I think,
And
think
you know,
it's,
you've delivered something, and the dream would be that you gave us £25 million to spend on it. Let's be realistic. And that's all happened within a year or so. So, and it's also nice that the residents in the town can see that. And I think you've been very public to help that as well. So, yeah, thank you from us. I think.
Lovely. Well,
Thank you very much indeed for your time and your time on Sunday too.
Shall I scoot off? You haven't got anything else that's relevant?
No, we're about to talk about Flat Field.
Oh, well, I'll leave you
But
to
apart from that, you can watch it on your way home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much indeed.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
2192 Town Matters, 229201. Thank the Flatfield Association for their recent event. This was their Halloween event, which I got dragged into pumpkin judging. I had no idea how complex pumpkin judging was. I thought there were different levels. I'm still apologising to parents and children that I offended by choosing the wrong one. Councillor Best wasn't very helpful. He just said, yeah. So, yeah, it was great. But it was a lovely event. Lots of people speak very highly about it, and it's nice to see it in use. And nice to see it in use with a different demographic from those that were here for the Jubilee. So, thanks to them. I thank Paul personally. And to receive further information about Flatfield and the site action accordingly.
Yeah, we had a meeting, Paul Eby and I, with Edwina and Julie McKinnon, and basically they're starting the moratorium process again for the because we've obviously got the asset of community value on the field. That I hoped was going to happen last week, but we haven't heard anything. So both Paul and I have emailed today just to see what's going on. Because once that happens, once they advertise it, it's only for community groups to come forward, and they're going to, the advert that they're going to put out, it's going to say, there's no point in any developers coming along because they're not going to be able to bid for it. And once that goes up, we've got 4 weeks to say, that we express an interest. And once they receive that, we then go into the 6 months period of us coming up with a bid for it. But it has now been registered as open space, so it's not as planning or building land, which helps us.
So tonight, do we need to formally say we want to be considered as a bid? Absolutely.
I think probably might be worth saying it now, because I don't know when that's going to happen, but it probably will happen before our next meeting.
So do we need to discuss this, or should we just say we do? I think it's sort of taken as read.
I think so. Yeah. Does it require a proposition? Because if it does, I'll make it.
Dave is happy to propose that we're willing to put ourselves forward as a bidder. And as soon as we know that's the exception, we can carry on. I'm more than happy to second it. Usually you can't vote on this, so Gentlemen, you three okay with that? Absolutely, so carried unanimously, thank you very much indeed. And thank you for pushing it forward with.
Yeah. And we have obviously haven't got to come up with the bid now. We've then got time to work that out.
That's brilliant. We'll start looking down the back in the second. 229202, consider signage on entrance to Oundle, including market and twinning signs and entrance to Flatland Way and signs on each road. I was going to send a photo of that, wasn't I? I forgot, I think. Sometimes when I walk around and drive around, I suddenly have ideas. I send them an email and it comes to an agenda item and I see it and I think, that's me. This was me. I drove into Frapston a few weeks ago and I saw they now have a sign on their entrance signs saying market, indoor market on a whatever day, and farmers market or whatever. I thought, as you drive into a town, it's a very sensible place to advertise that we have a market on Thursday and a farmers market. Do we have it? I don't think it's on the road.
They're not saying market town since
We might do,
nine.
but we don't.
Yeah, we say that,
First
yeah.
market charter, which goes back to about 1973.
Yeah.
Not that I was there when it was signed.
Because you might think that you missed it because you went there and noticed everything. So I'm not suggesting we come up with a decision, but I just thought we should probably ponder these things and then maybe talk about it next meeting. Do we want to put market signs on, and there'll be a cost, I presume, from highways. Secondly, there are twinning signs up. I don't know if we are twinning still, and whether those live in perpetuity, because we might start running out of room at some point. And the other one is coming into Flatland Way here. There's no actual sign to the town council on either side. Coming from the north, there's no sign to anything. It's just the back of the sign. And coming from this side, it says Flatland House. But if you don't know what Flatland House is and you're new to the town, I know driving around Casey looking for the church, there's no sign to the church. And Google Maps kept saying the vicarage of the church wasn't there. So, and it's really hard because it was a hilly town to find the church. And if you don't know what you're looking for, it's quite hard to find us as a council. So should we have something to do a sign on there? I don't know how we go about that. And thirdly, there are signs on East Road to East Northants Recycling Centre, which isn't there anymore, and some other East Northants. And who do we should have asked?
I
So-
suppose there's a conversation with Sarah Balmer to
So
start with, maybe.
do we
Is
ask
that
Sarah
it?
next time she's now to start looking at signs and consider what she comes back with next meeting maybe. So I just thought it was worth raising for the next couple of months and see if we can get something resolved.
And we just put it over to the state.
Yeah, absolutely. Those aren't actually in this.
But do you want me to just
If you talk to
initially
Sarah,
speak to
just
Sarah?
in the end, that's what it's all going to come
So
down
that
to.
you can then feed back to the
Yep.
state.
Absolutely. Perfect. Anything from anyone else? Right, lovely, thank you very much. 229203 to report on cars driving into the marketplace where market traders are still packing away. The concerns of council staff are having confrontations with drivers and consider what action can be taken. This was mentioned at Paul King's funeral today, Simon. Him shouting out the window at people driving on the markets.
Yeah.
Well, this came from one of the maintenance team, and it's happened a few times. What happens, they go down as the market's packing up, just to wait until they finish packing and then remove the road closed signs that are at each end of the marketplace. But people just ignore it. And I mean, Tony's had situations where a car has just driven over one of the cones and come in. And when he's said, you know, you can't come in, they've just ignored him. Coming in from the wrong direction, because if that sign is, because if a market trader's left and the road closure sign's not put back, people will come in the wrong direction if they can see a parking space. And it's just, you know, I don't know whether we can do something to try and educate people that it's dangerous, because as some of the stores are packing up, you know, they've got like all the scaffold poles and things. If one of those poles hits or they hit anybody, they shouldn't be in that marketplace. It's closed on a Thursday until 6 p.m. for parking. That's what the sign actually says.
So there's a traffic warden slapped
Yeah.
tickets and stuff.
So it's just becoming a bit of a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Any thoughts, ideas on anything? Rupert?
This is basically a matter of public safety. Public safety. adjacent to and part of the highway. So I think it's really a matter of occasional enforcement, starting with the traffic wardens, but upping it to a measure of occasional police presence.
Perhaps something in the advertiser, that North Central page at some point is that moral message.
That's assuming that
That's
they're
going to
famous,
grab the readers.
Yes.
Moral message.
assuming that the habitual offenders are literate.
I'm sure they are, yes. I'm sure they are.
Whether they read it.
Well, they presume that's not really their intention.
On my travels last year, I saw somewhere, I can't remember where it was, I think it's Daventry. They have a boom gate.
Yeah, I talked about that.
Yeah.
Also one.
I think it was concreted in, which is not very attractive.
Mm.
John?
I had two thoughts. One is a gate like that. It would look ugly given the planning application for the telephone masters.
Let's recommend the master.
But more importantly, thinking about the invasion of Istanbul, can we not just put a chain across? You've got bollards and posts, and put a chain across until the market traders are finished.
Yeah, we
Cars
can
could not get in.
try that. I mean, the problem happens is a market trader will leave, and obviously
Just drive off.
they drive off. And so, Tony has to be like almost at both ends. And I mean, we see it on the Christmas market.
But if there was, say, a chain across both ends or one end, and the market traders went out, and then you had to let them out, at least you'd be there and the other end.
Presumably it's only needs to be the exit.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
actually drivers with no entry sign.
Yeah, they drive the opposite. Yeah, the opposite. I mean, we'd have to work out how you would chain it across, and but then you've got that issue of if it's across, somebody trips over it, walking along. I mean, we had issues like that with the ropes when we had the one-way system. We'd be really careful. I don't know. It's a tricky one when you're putting something sort of permanent. It means you've almost got two people manning it
It sounds
the
like
whole time.
Traffic enforcement, or parking wardens.
Yeah.
Safe way.
Other towns have these bollards that go up and down.
Mm.
I have no idea what they cost to put in. But the point is that the market traders have codes, so they
Yeah.
operate themselves to let themselves out, and they go back automatically when they've done so. And obviously on days where it's completely free and open, they're kept low.
Yeah.
So clearly a significant cost, I can imagine.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
And
And I don't know whether we'd get planning for that.
I'm not sure they work very well. We have one in school at the moment where the buses, I've now for some reason it works when I go past on my bike, which is slightly upsetting.
Yes.
Things on a coach and so on. Okay, I mean, is it worth investigating then traffic wardens every now and again?
Yeah, I think that might be.
Messaging the advertiser.
Yeah, and then maybe, I don't know, some form of, I mean, we have got huge signs up and that tell people that the market's there and how it's there for. They do ignore them, but I don't know whether there's something else we can do. I think maybe putting stuff out on social media and sort of explaining to
I think if you
people.
want that parking space, probably you want that parking space, so maybe something more physical.
I was wondering if we had a sign simply saying farmers market.
Yeah, it says no parking.
Yeah,
No
it
parking,
does,
it says
yeah.
no parking from overnight, yeah. Which gets ignored as well sometimes. So it is a tricky one, but it's just, I think I'll try with traffic wardens, see if a PCA, so pop down on a Thursday afternoon,
They're
just
around.
do it, they're around,
Well,
wander
because
around.
They did the bus recently, didn't they, on the farmers market?
Sorry?
Well, they do a bus on the farmers
Yeah, I
market.
think they did a
this
little while ago,
Saturday.
yeah.
So maybe if there's a chance of them just doing a flyby occasionally,
Yeah,
taking it, that would be great. And
okay.
if anyone has any bright ideas in the next month walking past, let us know next month. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you Tony for his patience. 2293 council matters, 229301 mayor's report. Sent an updated one through just the other day. There's nothing hugely exciting on it. We did an asset transfer thing we watched on recently, which we touched on in finance last week. I went to the Town Rowing Club a couple of weeks ago, which was much bigger than I expected. I chatted with someone at the football club about drainage issues. They thought I knew about drainage, I don't. But they're having problems getting water. It's coming out from the waitress, some street drain out onto the pitches and isn't going out. And it's not the Environment Agency, but it's not someone else. So I said anything we could do to help, we would, but I'm not sure what's what. There's a thing about the transport working part that I'll come to later on. I was on Oscar Radio a couple of days ago, which was very exciting with Robert over there, thank you. And hopefully we're going on in a couple of weeks' time as well. And I had a couple of things recently. There was wine tasting, which was great. The flu jab at the surgery went fantastic well, and Remember on Sunday, all really impressive. So we're very lucky to do that. And as I said today, I went to Councillor King's funeral and took the mayor's chain that was on his coffin. So that was, pretty serious event, but well attended and family appreciated it. So what's going on? Emma, 229302, Clark's report.
Internal control checks, saying the asset mapping conference that you attended, have started having insurance reviews, just getting quotes for our insurance. I had one come in, but I've also had one with our current provider, struggling to find another one at the moment. Attended the meeting with Paul Evely about Fletton Field. Went to Town Clerk's meeting, had a presentation from the officer at NNC who deals with all the Christmas promotions, and they've started them now. I think there's a video where they've been round to various different towns. I don't know if they've been into Oundle with Father Christmas, but there's a video that we can have a look at on their link on their Christmas promotions. And also we had a presentation about the Supporting Independence programme. So was that what Councillor Harrison was talking about?
I think she was going to mention it. And then started talking about it.
Yeah, it didn't sound sort of
She might
similar,
come to
yeah.
us about it some
But that seemed quite interesting. I've been carrying out the interim appraisals with all the staff. Just got Paul's, because he's obviously gone on holiday now, to sort out when he comes back. And then attended the Northants branch of the SLCC AGM, where we had the presentation from Claudia IT, which is quite interesting. Then we've got a list of complaints and nice comments as well as coming.
Nice comments and rumbles.
Yeah. And then the crime figures, which pretty similar, I think, to, I don't think they're shot up. I think we've got a bit more antisocial behaviour, but I think the police are aware of that.
Cool. Thank you very much indeed. Any questions about any of that? Lovely. 229303, to discuss how best to support the Youth Unite group via flexible arrangements for the old preschool space at Fletton House over the next 3 to 6 months. Decide further action, including instructions to estates regarding future use of the space. So something we discussed last month. They wanted to come and talk to us again tonight, just to clarify that we went after sort of a short 3 term, that was it, guillotine thing. I think looking back at the meeting, we sort of said it was a 3 month moving forward type thing. And they didn't know there was, so I think they'd watched it. And then as I put on the agenda discussion document there, I had a conversation with Tracy just to clarify a few things. I suppose we just need to decide if we're happy to carry on with that sort of 2 nights a week over the next few months, and then see how it goes, maybe 3 or 4 nights, as they start building up their DBS checks, Association of Youth Clubs, and working towards a charity, and then seeing where it takes us.
Yeah, do you think, did we get an idea of when they're looking to start? Because I'm just a bit concerned about the furniture issue. Obviously, we need to make sure that it complies with fire regulations and things like that. And also, I do know that our insurance well, our insurance companies say that anybody who hires our facilities cannot leave things on the premises. So I don't know how that will work with furniture.
So I suppose we need to get that clarified with the insurers.
Yeah,
And is there a way around that? If youth clubs say we've got a sofa, could they give it to us? And we put it in there and they use it and give it back to them at the end? I don't know.
I mean, I thought they were going a little further than just sofas. So I thought I heard mention of pool tables,
yeah.
which are large and
Mm.
not movable.
I raised pool tables with Tracy because pool tables were mentioned in our previous conversation. I think that's one of their ambitions, but they don't have a pool table yet. They don't own a pool table and they haven't bought a pool table. Apparently we've offered them a table tennis.
There is a table tennis, yeah, it's in Blackthorn Room, and it's not used by Fab anymore, so, or it can move down there.
But
I mean,
that would be ours.
Yeah.
Going down there.
I mean, I know that they're looking, obviously they were talking about having a lease at some point in the future. That would obviously mean, and then it would just be for the youth club, because there have been thoughts about maybe, Fab being able to use that space instead of having to come upstairs to use the platform room, and whether there would be other things that we could run in that space rather than it just be for the one group. But then, obviously, if they've got their furniture in there, it's just knowing really what the council want. If you're happy for them to have it as sole use, that's fine.
I discussed the idea of it being exclusive at the moment and said that wasn't an option for the moment.
Two questions. So the preschool have it as sole use, and what's possibility A and possibility B? I'm trying to understand what possibility B is on the.
Okay. Possibility B, good question. I was thinking about something which Paul raised back in July when we walked around here about whether at the moment we have a workshop down by East Road. We're spending roughly £13,000 a year on that. Whether we could bring the estates team up here, store some materials and use downstairs. Downstairs is far too large, I think, for estates needs. Whether there's any way we could break it open, use bits of it, probably not. But the outside space out there would probably be relatively useful. In some
I
way.
think we've been having a look at that, and they've got quite a lot of stuff, and also they need some sort of workshopy area. And also, we've noticed that the car park's been really busy just lately, and people are parking right up against this fence the other side. You're going to need to take all of those spaces, we think 4 spaces out, because they're not going to be able to get in and out. If they've got the trailer and things like that, their manoeuvrability is going to be limited. I think it needs somebody to come and measure that out and see.
Oh, no, it certainly does. The other thing was talking at the pumpkin event. Fletton Field have an ambition of getting a storage container on Fletton Field. And whether in a year's time or 2 years' time, we decide that them having a storage facility on Fletton Field and us having a storage facility on Fletton Field for lawnmowers and stuff starts making more sense. That needs to be fed into the mix as well. So I suppose the issue really is, do we want to lose the outside space here? Possibly not. But can we let the youth club use it in the short term or not at all? Also,
So just
Second question.
Did the preschool have exclusive use?
yes.
Yeah, they had to, obviously, because it was, they've got documents in there for children.
But then
They have furniture.
Yeah, they had all their own stuff, yeah.
and they say,
So I can't see what the problem.
But that was because they had a lease, it was there, and it's different to them just, at the moment, just hiring.
so their suggestion is they come in 2 nights a week, they pay £15 an hour. And
Did the preschool, how long had the preschool been there for?
Longer than us.
Did they begin, I just wondered, did they begin with a straight out lease?
they were here.
Yeah,
before
they were
the-
here before the town council.
So just a question, so preschool presumably use it during the day, youth club will use it presumably during the evening,
Preschool's now gone.
Preschool's gone.
Yes, so I get comes my question, which is, if it's now being used in the evening, not used during the day, what's the opportunity cost of losing that space during the day? Is there
That's
something
the
else we can using it for?
So I think one of the points is we could say, we don't need to agree all of the future now. I don't think. I think we can say, use it once a week, which is actually what we said at the meeting. David Fuller sat there and said, let's suck it and see. I think as long as we don't say that there's an automatic cut-off at the end of 3 months, which I think was their concern. We say we're happy to continue moving forward, and then as their needs develop, we can say 3 nights, 4 nights, and in 3 or 4 months' time, if they become a charity, because we need to sign a lease with the organisation that was going to move forward,
Yeah.
which doesn't exist yet, then we could decide if we wanted to be nighttime all day, and they might say that's not great, and we'll say, well, we've had other uses, but that gives us 3 or 4 months to work on those other uses.
I think, just my opinion really, I think Anna has a lot of space for, and a lot of opportunities really for of an evening for older people, and the school, as in Albert School, takes care of its kids' needs of an evening most of the time, whereas I think young people of Arundel have nowhere to go, and this sort of thing is imperative, I think. And I can't think of words basically that we should, So I think we started. It's got my entire support, and I think we should do everything we possibly can to help.
David?
Yeah, I mean, Councillor Arnold, it's a very, very promising project, meeting a need that hasn't been met in this town for a very long time. So yes, we need to back it. I think in practical terms, the end of our kind of council year is the end of April, which is 5 months away. I'd be tempted to say during that 5 months, although if they wanted to approach us prior to that with a request for a lease to be considered, and then we will, towards the end of that 5-month period, review that arrangement and just see where it goes. I mean, if it's going to take off, and they clearly sound enthusiastic about it, and say it's going to be oversubscribed anyway, 5 months in, we'll see whether that initial enthusiasm has survived, or whether, as sometimes is the case, numbers start to fall away, and it becomes altogether more difficult. But giving them a decent run and giving them the security of saying, look, we will allow you to hire it, not exclusively, arguably, so that we could take hires in the day were they to become available to us. I think we try to meet the needs. And in terms of that insurance issue, I think you probably hit it on the head. They could acquire equipment, they could give it to the town council on an understanding that if in due course they were to take a lease, the lease would include the exclusive use of all of the stuff they previously donated to us.
Then it becomes.
And we would also give an undertaking not to dispose of it during
Yeah.
the hire period, or something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a way. I mean, it could be that they can hire it and we can have some sort of agreement with them. It's their furniture. I don't know. I'll have to speak to the insurance company first just to.
But there's a way through that, and that's where the memorandum of understanding comes in,
Yeah.
which we can work on the next few weeks. So, I get the general consensus, we like the idea, we think it's a good idea, we want to support it, and we want to support them in their early stages, and an ad hoc arrangement suits them and suits us. And the idea of us coming back to look at it a bit more formally in 5 months' time or so seems reasonable. But that's not a guillotine, it's.
I was going to say, we're not doing that with a view to the results.
No, the review could be that
Yeah.
we carry on as is.
Just a thought, if I'm going to review it at the end of 5 months, therefore we want to review it before then, because I'm having ahead, so maybe within 3 months of review.
Well, the 3 months, sorry, got sticky last time.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said you can have it for 5 months review, up to 3 months extending it.
Right.
Because if we say we're not going to look at it until the end of that 5-month period, they can't plan ahead. That's just.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say that although I'd said have it for that 5-month period, the review can't take place in the last 2 weeks of the 5 months. It's got to take place to give them and us an opportunity to see where we go.
But well, it's on the recording, we're not guilty at that point.
Oh,
We're
absolutely.
reviewing with a forward look. So, and then if we check the insurers,
I can do that, yeah.
that's fine, and then we can come up with wording of a memorandum of understanding that suits our needs. And we should thank them for coming forward with and as you say, Jamie, meeting a need that's absolutely. Yeah. As you say, we're well placed to solve that. And also in the meantime, estates and you need to maybe work with other groups saying, is there a need for daytime activities? Because that might work for everyone.
And at some point, I assume we could think about giving it another name other than the preschool, because we can't keep calling it preschool.
Pre-preschool.
Pre-
Pre-preschool.
But that will be moving forward.
Thank you very much indeed. 229304, to consider a request from Blooming Owl to install more flower planters in the town. They came and spoke to us at finance last week and gave us a presentation, and the only thing we have here is sort of a couple of maps to formalise some of their suggestions. One is on the end of Northbridge, and of course that's not in Handle. I've been in contact with Sarah Barnwell briefly about that. She thinks she's heard them, she's going to look and try and talk to them, because that's outside our remit really. The other areas at the western end of the Market Hall, the old Market Hall, and the other end is sort of outside, down towards Chinese Takeaway on West Street, I think.
I mean, they're all highway, it's all highways that have got a grid anyway, but I think they just want to run it past us.
David?
Well, I was just very conscious that when we got that presentation, we were told that they had spoken or attempted to communicate with highways. They've never had any response, and just basically plowed on because nobody said they could. But I do think that that needs to be formalised to some degree. But you're right, I mean, I don't think they're not trying to put any of this on land that we own or control.
No.
So I don't think we really express much of a view other than that to say that in principle we support anything that beautifies the town.
And we've given them a grant to do so. But one or two of them check with the residents in those locations. Rupert?
In fact, it so happens, after Blooming Oval, the ladies came and talked to us, I happened to meet the lead lady when my wife and I were walking down West Street. So I think I succeeded in clarifying her ongoing relations with highways. She promised to contact Sarah Barnwell, area house engineer, to get express guidance on just how much space in front of the old railway until she can use and on what basis. So that touches on deeply to Councillor Chapman's suggestion that we at least express the substance of that in writing.
Marvellous, and hopefully Sarah is now looking out for those emails. So yeah, thank you very much to them. As you say, not a lot we can do, but say thank you for their plant. 229305, to consider presentation from on electric vehicle charging points and consider taking part in a pilot project. This has come through NNC, I think, hasn't it? In a way.
I think it was Northampton Calc that had the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, had a
And then there's-
presentation.
Apparently we can all request an on-street charging point around.
Yeah,
I
it
was
came
talking
from
to
Danu.
Jason Smithers before the reclaim or something, he was very excited about getting more around the place. And then said, but the marketplace didn't sound a good idea, that's what one of them is. But, I wasn't quite sure what the pilot was, is we fill in an online form, don't we, say we'd like some advice and help. And then they come and talk to us.
It's
about
not part, you remember the locations that we were given
the Liberty ones.
is that
Yeah,
a
it
different company?
seems to be
Right.
separate to that, which is a bit weird.
Hmm.
But is the pilot just, we'd like to talk to you about stuff, because some of it's energy saving of buildings, some of
Yeah.
it's car point. I mean, I think we should definitely sign up and.
So do you want me
see what
to
they say.
sign up?
Is everyone okay with that? It seems no obligation, but at least it's worth talking to them, because they've got lots of money floating around. 229306, to consider proposal to name a bench in the recreation ground, and name the mayor's award, which we started last year at the annual town meeting, in memory of Councillor King. Jamie, you want to say anything?
Yeah, this, well, the naming the newly introduced Mayor's Award, after Councillor King's my proposal, love Download. Yeah, I think it would be a very fitting tribute.
So, Max and John, Paul King lived in town for 20 years.
Yeah.
Was mayor 3 times. Was on the council previously, regional council last year, and died a couple of weeks ago. And was chair of estates, and I was at his funeral today. I was talking to some members of his family today about this, and he lived in the centre of town. I was wondering whether we should actually have another award with his name on, specifically for the market area. So I haven't worked out the wording, but something that someone who's done something extra special for the marketplace, either in terms of the market itself, or keeping things buoyant, or purifying it, or whatever, would be an extra. That was his big thing, was it, the marketplace. Maybe keeps the market drivers who didn't park. Yes. Councillor King. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any views?
I think something like that would be absolutely nice to do for him, or in memory of him. Bench is a good idea, but I particularly like the additional award idea.
So I'm happy to propose that we go with an extra award specifically for.
The only issue I have with that is it's a narrow field. It's not.
I think we can put it as broadly as possible. So, for example,
I know you said Blooming Elmer, which I think would be a very good and fitting. Award, but yeah, it's more. Yeah, I guess just the focus is a bit.
well, and maybe the town centre.
Yeah.
Because that was his area of particular love, wasn't it?
The conservation.
The conservation.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's it. So, and the other one can be called whatever it happens to be, that and then the conservation area
Yes.
was his special love. That's what was mentioned in the eulogies today, that he loved showing people around the middle of town. So, he was trying to make it specific. So I'm happy to propose that we start the Councillor King Award, given out at town meeting.
Yeah.
For, in recognition of
Services to the
Conservation area.
services to conservation area. So services to the area. But that's just spent on.
Yeah.
I think we've got to get it.
Are you doing anything, what about the bench?
Benches within the school, are they?
I mean, I think it is a nice idea. I mean, having said that, obviously, there have been loads of very dedicated councillors over the years.
Yeah.
It would set a kind of new precedent. I'm not against setting a new precedent. So Councillor King loved this town and put a lot of effort into what he did.
That was the point raised in the States last week, wasn't it? I think actually that the award is probably more than.
I'm inclined to think about the award now, and maybe we should have a bit more thought about, should we as a town council consider using things like our benches and what have you, with a view to possibly dedicating to people, and then should it just be to councillors, should it be to all the mayors, should it be, and we haven't really thought this through.
Bench policy.
Yeah.
Bench policy.
Yes.
I'm excited. No, I think that's.
Yeah,
I think the award is totally.
Go with the award.
Thank you very much indeed, Jamie. Thank you for suggesting we should on. 22 note 307 to appoint a representative to the museum trust on the resignation of the councillor.
Shall I just take that for a minute? At the start of this council year, we changed the system, in effect, at the request of the museum management committee, who form the other half of, in a sense, the trustees, because they were concerned at the fact that there was no continuity. The old system had the mayor and deputy mayor, who conceivably could change each year, and two other sort of self-selecting councillors as trustees. What we were asked to do was to appoint 4 trustees who were willing to serve for the entire term, council term, as trustees of the museum. And Councillor King was one of those 4 trustees. Shortly before his very untimely death, he resigned. At the time, we didn't know why, whether some premonition of health issues or what, so I think we'll never know. The result is there is a vacancy on the museum trust, which could do with filling through to the end of the current council term, so it's about another 2.5 years, roughly. The museum trustees meet effectively quarterly, and they're not involved with the day-to-day running of the museum, which is handled by the museum management committee, who are all volunteers. But they're sort of charged with the overall oversight, if you like. At the moment, they are just going through a process of finalising a new constitution, because they're becoming a charitably incorporated organisation. The museum is based in the courthouse, in premises that it rents from the town council. It explains the very close connection between the council on one hand and the museum on the other. And throughout the 20-odd years that the museum has been going, probably closer to 25, I should think, the constitution had always had an equal number of councillor trustees and an equal number of non-councillor trustees. So the question that arises is whether there are any councillors, that include either of our new councillors, who might be interested in becoming a representative. I think the next meeting is scheduled for the 6th of December, it says tentatively. And I suppose it would be possible, if people weren't sure, we could invite somebody to come along and join the meeting as an observer before committing themselves.
A taster session.
A taster all with. Unless somebody is absolutely dying to do it. I appreciate we're slightly down on numbers anyway tonight. We may have
Sorry,
I think we were last time as well.
Yes, and we may have potentially 2 further possible co-optees next time, which might increase the numbers, but it would mean we missed the
6th.
December meeting on the 6th.
Any thoughts or volunteers?
I'm not sure I'm volunteering, but I guess as a professional historian, I might be in the firing line. I'm more than happy to attend the meeting that you mentioned in December as an observer and report back and kick things off. You know, as a historian, I'm possibly not actually the best person. They might not actually welcome the views of the story, you know, and there. But I had also been a trustee of the Richard III Visitor Centre in Leicester, so there may be some information that's transferable.
I'm sure there is much we can learn. Well, I'd be delighted to, I'll speak to the chair and explain what's happened. And I can grab your email address.
Yes.
I've got it, yeah. We have got 3 councillors that are already on because they want 4 representatives. So David, you're on.
Myself, Councillor Chester and
So
Councillor Fuller.
Fuller.
Neither of whom unfortunately are here today.
No.
So Max, thank you, and you can come back and tell us, and we might all go and join you on the queue for the next meeting. 229401 to approve the bank reconciliation balance sheet and budget for October 2022. Both accounts are relatively healthy. Any queries or questions? I don't think there's anything untoward or unexpected in any of those. So I'm happy to propose that we approve those. David seconded, are we all okay to vote on that? Thank you very much indeed. Payments for October 22, the schedule of payments for October 22 is presented at this item are paid. Again, I can't see anything on there. Jerry's been through it, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So if Jerry says it's all right, it's fine by me. I'm happy to propose again that we make the payments. David's happy to second it. Everyone okay with that? Thank you very much indeed. To receive the Finance and General Purposes Committee meeting minutes, most of what we did was talk about the budget, strangely. We also made a small cost of living payment to all the staff, thank them for all their hard work. But it was small, sorry. And then, any questions on it? No, lovely. And then 229404 to consider the draft budget. I was wondering, could you pass that out to Max? John. Rupert and David were on the meeting last week. Well, this is in the pack as well. But I rather boringly tried to avoid talking to my family on holiday in August and started going through the budget in Canada, which they thought I didn't spend enough time doing. And I basically came up with these assumptions that we tried to embed in the budget last week, that we will assume that the contracts on the electricity contract running out in June next year, we should allow for a doubling of electricity price. We should allow for a doubling of gas price, so it sounds like that may not be as important, but it might just be nice to have a bit of spare in the budget. We should allow for up to 7.5% on pay rises, which of course is nationally decided, but might be decided next year or even later than this year. And we should assume that fuel costs will go up, etc., etc. But the other thing that was decided in the meeting that we should try and minimise the precept increase as much as we could. And we sort of set a top limit of 5% on that as best we could. Some of the numbers there are slightly eye-watering, but they are what they are. And we can do our best over the next few months to find ways of taking the light bulb out or turning thermostats down or whatever. But with the old buildings we have, there's only so much we can do in terms of reduction. So that's sort of where the shape of the budget, I think, came from. I think with Paul's work, we managed to come up with a budget that had a preset rise of 5% or less, and included all of those increases. We kept money in there for some hub running as it is at the moment, some more wall repairs, etc. And with the QDH meeting that we just had, hopefully reducing the QDH grant a little bit, it should come in with a little bit more wiggle room. I think in the end, we're running at about, is it 20,000 pull from reserves?
Just looking at, I think it's 20,390.
And then this year at the moment, we may be looking at an underspend of hopefully about that. So the idea is it shouldn't be it should be about neutral. But Max and John, we have to set a preset, we've set a budget by December to tell North Northampton what our precept is by January so they can start doing all the work for April. So there's lots of second guessing, having done it once now. So that's where we are. I think Rupert and David, correct me if I'm wrong, came up to a pretty amicable end result, which pretty much got to where we hope we would get to.
Yes.
I think it seems relatively prepared for next year. Any questions, John? You haven't seen all the 26 pages of fun, have you?
Yeah, I just see this, and I can see costs there. Presumably there's an army budget somewhere, or not you included in the pension income tax policy expenditure.
There is, and we've tried to be relatively conservative on the room hire income we get, market traders. We haven't put them up on the basis that we don't think in the next year there's going to be a lot more market traders rolling around.
Maybe a lot less market.
Well, exactly. So we've tried to be conservative in our income. assumptions. If income goes up.
I'll send you both a copy of this draft of budget and, because I'll be sending you some other stuff as well tomorrow, so that'll be part of it.
So there's lots to read. Obviously, we need to formally decide next meeting to approve the budget in general. I understand each of you need time to read it, everyone else will probably need time to read it, we might need time to read it again. But I think the broad outline of what we've got is probably about as good as it's going to get in terms of balancing expenditure and income and precept. Any thoughts or questions at all? Rupert?
Following our discussions at the previous meeting, and my reading through here, I think the assumptions and projections are sound. I could live with them, be willing to vote for them at the final meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else, David?
I mean, once again, we kind of ended up having to duck these, what I call the East Road question, which you alluded to earlier. We rent premises down there for our open space maintenance team at a cost of about 13,000 a year. And for certainly the last few years, we keep toying with the idea of, is it going to be possible for us to create our own premises on land that we already own or that we would potentially acquire at a sensible price, with a view over a longer term to effectively a saving and creating a capital asset instead of simply spending it. I'm not suggesting that we can do anything about it in this year's budget, but I do very much think that it is something that estates need to be looking at. And we should try to see if we can identify anywhere, to some extent that includes, I suppose, looking at the downstairs area here. Is there anywhere that we own that we could utilise for the purposes that we need it for? Because in the long run, I think we will save ourselves appreciable sums of money.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Can we ask Lisa to put that onto the agenda for next week's meeting?
Yeah.
Just to Jamie and.
Is that meeting going ahead? Because.
I think, yes, it's, yeah, he's back on.
Oh, right, okay, I'll let her know.
But we just need to actually, we get a couple of us getting our heads together and maybe talking with Robbie and Tony over the next few months and working out what our remits are, because we'll keep kicking it around for a while to do something specific. Lovely. So, Emma, from us, we've considered, we thought we can keep mulling. Presumably, we need to be in a position by December to say, yay.
I think there's a couple of tweaks for Paul to add. Obviously, the QVH part, and then see where we're at, because I think if we reduce the amount of money that OTC are going to give to the QVH, then it will reduce the amount maybe coming from reserves to keep. I mean, you're happy for it to stay at that 5%.
I think we really shouldn't go above that.
Yeah, but I don't.
Get it down below
I don't
that.
think you should take it below.
I think with the electricity price at the moment, we're paying 17p a unit, and depending on what Jeremy says on tomorrow or Thursday, it's not going to be much less than that. So I think we need to be prepared for that. David?
I was just going to say, I certainly find it helpful to have it on a not A3 printed sheet that I can actually look at during the meeting. It's easier than trying to work it off the screen, quite frankly. So if we could have a number of those around the table.
Yeah, I'll do. Yeah, I'll print them out for finance. You're not here for finance, are you?
I'm not. In fact, no, I'm not. Usually will.
Well, I just need to.
I'm with Berlin. Unless I'm able to do it over a lot.
It's on the 13th, so.
So that must be the
It's Tuesday the 13th.
What you name Berlin?
Running a trip for 40 children.
Sorry, rather than here.
Yes, sorry, yes. probably not. So 229405 to approve costs of 330. This is 330, not 330,000. So first rate.
No, it's
We're very
330.
expensive conference.
There is a full stop, not a comma.
Okay, that's all right. To attend the SLCC Practitioners Conference in February 2023. Seconded. Everyone happy? Lovely, thank you very much indeed. Is it, where is it?
I think it's in Kenilworth, Kenilworth,
I was hoping
Which is
something a lot
not
more
near-
exotic.
Warwickshire.
It's very nice council. Is it?
It's just that the last one I did was over Zoom, and that was the one just recently. That wasn't practitioners, that was another one. But it's just hard to do a conference, and you miss out on so much of the other stuff in between. Ideally, better to be there.
Especially in Kenilworth. Can you bring back photos of the castle? 229406 to appoint a verification councillor to carry out internal control checks. So this is, we have to have 2 councillors who are
Yeah.
signatories on the account.
Well, more than that, if possible. Yeah.
So I'm one at the moment, I'm the only one at the moment. I know David Fuller is now.
He hasn't. I don't think he's
Done
he's on yet. No, I don't think we've sorted it out yet. David
And
should
then-
be.
Yeah, hopefully. And then we have 2 verification councillors that check that what our finance guy told us is right and tells us that we can pay things, that's good. Jerry Hutton, who's not here tonight, is one of them. And Liz, who has left Amman a couple of weeks ago, was the other. So we need a new verification councillor. Can't be me, I'm McLeod. Yeah.
No, it can't be. So,
John? No.
Is it just audited or?
It's just once every 3 months.
yeah, it's just our internal controls. So we do have an internal auditor and we have an external auditor as well. But this is just for the council to make sure that everything's in order. We tend to do it mostly now. Paul, our finance officer, he emails everything, and you'll have access to the bank account to view, so you can sort of marry it, invoices and things to what's on there. So the actual meeting of us sitting down, it doesn't take that long because most of it's all been done by email.
Jerry says it's about half an hour every
Yeah.
2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Do we need to formally?
You can do if you like, yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, what we might do is Jerry does the town council at the moment, and Liz, because she was a fairly new councillor, she was doing Queen Victoria Hall, which is smaller, so maybe just start with that if you like, and it's up to you and Jerry how you work it.
Perhaps I'll talk to Jerry to find
Yeah.
out what the situation is, but
Yeah.
I'm happy to take that responsibility.
Thank you very much indeed, John. 2295, Highway Matters, 229506, receive a verbal report from the Transport Working Party and consider next steps, including the adoption of the advisory 20 mile an hour in the town centre. If you look at the mayor's report, I typed on this to save a little bit of paper. The Transport Working Group was chaired by Paul, Luke, Dave and myself met very briefly a couple of weeks ago in here. And it's nothing very exciting, but I will chair the working party for the next 2 or 3 months just to take it on. We're going to approach TPP to get as much data into the report as possible. These are the guys who did our report for us and got all the data from the transport strips, etc. And basically, we want to give as much data as we can to highways to give them the reason to do this, at least look at things. We don't have the authority to put make anything happen. We can suggest things. I've been in touch with TPP, as I said, that was out in the news, and they were hoping to get back to me last week, which they haven't done, so I'll chase them and see what's what. But the next 2 stages are perhaps the most important. First of all, once we end up with something, TPP's main aim is to produce a final report in 1 hit. We as a full council haven't fully discussed the transport report yet, and it will be nice to maybe go out about, see what people think about it, and then produce a final version. Whether they're willing to do that, or whether we end up producing a draft final report, I'm not sure. It'll be what it'll be. But the idea is, from Transport's point of view, Highways point of view, they want to know that people know about it, and it's either got support or lack of support, depending on the various issues. So the idea was that we do some council surgeries in February, March. One of us maybe just sits in the Queen Victoria Hall or the museum or Beans or on a bench somewhere and just says, for this time, come and talk to me about this publication. People can come and say it's brilliant, it's awful, whatever. We can then say we've done that and try to feed that back into it. There's a meeting which the Annual Business Association are looking to organise here on the 31st of January. They want to get the NNT councillors here. They already have the highways team in here once and talk to them about various things. But they'd like us to be able to sort of show the businesses what's going on, maybe even an MP if they can get one. And the idea being that we present something at the town meeting in April, May, whenever that is, and say, here's our suggestions, because that's what they are, here's the data that backs them up, and we put it on the highways desk and say, right, there's a shopping list, you start doing your bit. It's very much pushing ideas into their court, and hopefully they'll do it. So that's the idea. The one thing that did come out of the meeting in here, the Business Association, was Highways suggested we looked at. One of the ideas of the report is to have a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit in town. Highways have all difficult consultations, etc. But they advised going for an advisory 20-mile-an-hour speed limit with green signs, which are not enforceable, but they do get in people's faces, and said we could get on with that as soon as possible. So I suppose the question for tonight is, do we think that would be a good idea? And more importantly, how do we go about doing it?
It's one thing living in the centre of town. Are these the things that have faces?
No, they're just.
Do they give a speed?
Okay, they're just signs. We don't have the authority to put a speed sign up. And highways say it takes months to get around to going through all the process. Whereas an advisory sign, I think we are allowed, we can ask them and they'll put them up. We might just have to pay them. But I've got no idea how much they cost. I have no idea how long it would take. So, if we can check the Sarah on what it costs and
We go to Weldon, they have all these signs up saying 20 is plenty. About talking to Weldon to see what they had to do to get that done. When does the centre begin and end?
I'll send you a copy of the report. It has a map, like advisory area.
Sorry, I've not seen that.
No, don't worry, you wouldn't have done it.
Just to pick up really from where the mayor's left off, one of the other reasons for doing this transport survey is that developers go to NNC with data that is probably a decade old and then say, there are no traffic implications for what we are proposing. And although we consistently have told the council, yes, there are, there's no official data that can kind of back up what we say. So the other sort of aspect of this is to get that data before the council, not only for highways to look at it, but to ensure that planning look at it as well, so that they can factor it in when they look at significant developments. Now, it's too late for the application awaits a decision, but it's highly probable that there will be at least one, if not two, more major applications within a relatively short period. And I think it's vital that the plan that was developed for taking this thing forward through to the public town meeting in April. But in terms of the advisory speed limits, that would be a very concrete thing to show the public that we have initiated. So I'm all in favour of making inquiries about that with a view to getting that done as quickly as possible.
If everyone's happy,
Do you want me to?
I'm happy to contact Sarah and
Okay.
chase up that one. We've given you a few things to do already. At least just work out the cost of the application and maybe we'll have that. So that by December we might be in a position to say, let's do that. Lovely, thank you very much indeed. 2296, planning matters, to receive the minutes of the planning committee meeting on the 1st of November.
These have been circulated, but
Yeah.
there are a couple of things I'd just like to highlight. One of the applications we had to consider related to the proposed erection of an 18-metre high antenna in the marketplace. As soon as I saw that application, I got onto the office and said to Lisa, get out to the public in every way we possibly can details about this application. I hear what that was going to start, because I have never seen such a public response to a single planning application in 36 years on this council. I think at the time of our meeting, there were 353 posted comments. Needless to say, I haven't been able to review all of them. Very helpfully on the EMC planning portal, it tells you how many are objecting and how many aren't. And of the 353, 351 were objecting. Happily, as you will see from the next item, Hutchinson clearly decided that perhaps they were hiding to nothing if they kept on going with this, and they withdrawn the application. One of the issues that perhaps we may wish to consider, because the planning committee was entirely split on this issue, was whether we seek as a council to engage with Hutchinson about a more suitable location, which may or may not include land, or whether we simply wait to see if they can. It's actually rather difficult to envisage anything that could possibly be worth. And a few people who've spoken to me about it, and I have never been approached by so many people about the planning application either, but several people said, is this very Machiavellian? They put in an application for the worst possible place in Eldon to soften us up so that anything else looks better.
Yeah.
And the public have kind of run out of oomph to object. Now, I have literally no idea. All I can say is that I'm grateful to the public for responding in such numbers to a planning application. Interestingly enough, there was a second application which was for outline permission. It was only for 9 dwellings off Warren Bridge, but it has to be looked at in the context of the application that had already gone in for 53 houses on the remainder of the land to the rear of the cemetery on Stoke Door Road. So between the two of them, potentially around 60 odd houses. The council has objected on 3 separate occasions to the main David Wilson application, the larger site. We considered the outline application and came to the view that it's unrealistic to look at it other than as part and parcel of one thing. It was viewed as one thing in the Rural Northampton Infraction Plan, which is the only extant current local plan in the area, albeit much out of date. The local plan part 2, which is still going through its public examination phase, to which we also object roundly, does show the dual site, if I can call it that, as a allocated site for residential development. So it's going to be a question, I think, very much in watch this space, but we did object to the outline application. I was charged at the end of the meeting drawing up something. Took me a little bit longer than I thought for various personal reasons, but I sent it through to Lisa, I think, yesterday, or it might have been the day before, I was on track now. Yeah, that's now been sent in. It was an interesting meeting, as they frequently are.
Thank you very much indeed, David, as ever, and thank you for 229602, the notification that the application on the mast has been withdrawn. 229701, minutes of the Estates Committee meeting. You check that, you want to add anything?
No, that's good.
Pretty much done.
Yeah, it's quite
Pacey?
thorough.
It's good. The other thing I was going to add, which Emma and I discussed, which I've just seen again, there was talk about whether we should look at timing in the car park, etc. But that comes up in the transport study as some suggestions. So
Yeah.
we're going to maybe move that on to the report.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I took 2 school groups down to the cemetery last Friday and was going to show them all the various war graves, but the tree was being cut down on top of 2 of them. So the guys were very good stopping cutting it down and we waded over to them and back. So 2298, Communications Working Party, latest article from the Advertiser. Please thank Rebecca. 2299, 01, 02, 03 are for Police Commission and Violent Crime Commission newsletter, employment law update for 2 months, and the Supporting Independence Programme. But I think Helen's going to talk to us a little bit about next time she comes to see us. So, 2200. Any other relevant matters for report only? Luke, anything from you? Jim?
No, thank you.
Rupert?
No,
Then, Remembrance Day, massive turnout from town, and a good turnout from councillors who were able to be there. What I did observe to Councillor Chesser as we walked out of the church following the service and making our way up to the Great Hall was that it does seem a bit of a pity that there's been very little consistency over the last few years with the exact arrangement. The result that people are always slightly unsure quite what's going to happen at the point at which the service by the War Memorial ends and people will make their way up to the church. Traditionally, it always used to be the case that the mayor used to follow the vicar with the town council falling into step behind him and going up. This year, nobody was quite sure what was going to happen. In the end, I decided that we better not get too detached. So I kind of set off with the other councillors, with the mayor still in position behind. It's not a criticism in any sense. But I just feel that since former Councillor Johnson left the council, which used to be a very good point of contact we had with British Legion and the organisation of the event, it's got just ever so slightly messy in some ways. And I just wondered whether in the run-up to next year, perhaps somebody from the British Legion could literally come in and have a little chat to us at the previous meeting and just talk us through what they would like us to do. They do a fantastic job. And I'm so impressed with the whole turnout. It's just great, as it always is, but it is so impressive for a small town to put that on. And I don't in any way to sound critical, I just want to try and make it as good as it possibly can be and have this council play its part.
No, that's it's certainly been odd for the last 2 years being part of not really knowing what's going on. So you'd have the British Legion come in and give us a brief. Certainly even on the day, the advice changes.
It seemed to be, and
But that's yeah, it's a good point. I've written to the British Legion and to everyone at St Peter's and the Scouts and Guides and everyone else and very much. And I was going to CCF as well. Only other thing for me is Lisa sent around something about the Christmas tree. Is it this Sunday? It must be this Sunday.
It's 20th.
Yes, yeah, at 9:30. I'm in Berlin again, so I'm afraid I'm unable to. But it would be good if people could turn up at 9:30 and just. I turned up last year, didn't have to do anything apart from. I'm not sure I have to do anything actually. It was nice to see it in action. It's all very well drilled, but this year there's not Clive. Can't be there.
No, there won't be Clive. I mean, I think Peter still is going to be there, but it would be nice if just a couple of councillors
So
could
if anyone's
just,
free 9:30 on Sunday morning,
yeah.
no, obviously not. In the marketplace. it will be great
Just
just
what
to,
was the date again?
this Sunday.
This Sunday. It's just
If you can't do that,
the
fine.
Christmas tree arrives. I mean,
It's half an hour.
yeah, half an hour just goes into the hole, and that's
And people put it in the hole and electricians come and do stuff. It's really stop cars beeping as people have to stop. Because the Christmas tree is being put up, which is what we had to do last time.
My wife can do it.
There you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. I would be there, but unfortunately, duty calls. I think that's everything. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, John. Thank you very much indeed. Sitting there with no bits of paper. We have more paper next time. And thank you very much indeed for joining. Much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you.